Question for you. When you're working with a client, what is the number one factor you look at when it comes to going either short-term or long-term? Because people are, like you just mentioned, if you took a 3-year rate at 6%, now you're kicking yourself. What do you typically tend to recommend to clients to make that decision, help them make that decision?
It's a really good question, and you have to be willing to adapt. That's key. There's a time where the variable rate makes sense. There's a time where the 5-year fixed rate makes sense. There's a time where the 3-year might make sense. So you have to have a strong understanding of the market. I'm no economist, but you have to understand, the basics of the economy and inflation and things like that. And these are things we use to guide us. We listen to the things we're told by our government. Sometimes they're wrong, oftentimes they're right. But we take the direction from the government, we take direction from the economists, we see the signs in the market, and we try to advise our clients the best. I think it's from a base level, if we're talking to first-time home buyers for the most part, they're a little less, open to volatility in a sense. They want to lock in. They want to just know what their payments are going to be. So I think for first-time home buyers, it's more of an easier discussion because they prefer fixed rates. Maybe a seasoned buyer might be more open to variable. I think if I'm talking to somebody who is thinking of selling their house, that's one thing I always want to consider, the penalty. When you take a variable rate, the penalty is always 3 months interest. So you can bank on your penalty, you can calculate it. When you have a fixed rate, the penalty is based on either 3 months of interest or interest rate differential, whichever is greater of the two. That's what the bank contract says. And interest rate differential is based on the posted rates at the time you got the mortgage versus the posted rates at the time you want to break the mortgage.
It can be significant.
It can be significant. Well, you look at people again, unfortunately, who may have locked in at 6% last year, and they've got 2 years left on their mortgage, and they want to break it at, and take 4.5% today. Well, the bank's going to figure out, well, look, we loaned you that money for 3 years at 6%. You want to break it early. We have to go get that money back and lend the money out at a lower rate. We're going to figure out what that penalty is, and we're going to charge you, the client. That's effectively what they're doing. So they're getting their money back. Oftentimes, it can sometimes, but oftentimes it doesn't make sense to pay that big penalty. So when I'm advising a client, penalty for sure. What is it you're trying to do with this property? You're going to be here for the next 3 years, 5 years? Do you want flexibility? So
that's what I really loved about working with you, Dan, because you do look at what the client, what they're looking to accomplish, and try to cater to that.
Yeah, much like a realtor. I mean, you're trying to find, the house that fits them. You're not trying to just pick a house and here you go, here's the house I chose for you, right? That's not how a mortgage should be set up. You have to understand the client's needs. You have to understand what is it they're trying to do and cater the mortgage to that.
Yeah.